Hello, and welcome back to this week's edition of Torch Sports. I'm Grant Porch, and from myself, and along with the rest of the crew, thank you all for tuning in wherever you might be watching from. To kick things off, Jackson, Zach, Luke, and Sophie will be running things back once again with the Orange Zone. After that, Jordan and Alexi will be making their best selections of the week in the Pick Six. Following the Pick Six, Luke and Matthew will be filling us in on what's going on with UT Sports with Rocky Talk. Have you had enough Orange Zone? I don't think so, as they will return to the air following Rocky Talk. After the second run of the Orange Zone, Jay will be giving us the latest on Sportscast. We hope you enjoyed this episode. Thank you for tuning in. Enjoy the show, y'all. Go Vols.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Orange Zone. I'm your host, Jackson Schock, alongside Zach Pelfrey, Luca Tau, and making her Orange Zone debut, Sophie Starkey. We'll do our ceremonial pats here. No clapping. Unfortunately, Colton couldn't make it for the first half of the Orange Zone, but he'll be back for the seconds. But I've got his pick. Don't worry. The Vols stomped UConn to celebrate their homecoming. And let's be frank, they didn't just stomp them, they busted the doors off of UConn. It kind of looked like the Oprah show. You get a touchdown. You get a touchdown. Jalen Wright, 82 yards, first play from scrimmage. Go ahead and take it to the house. You get a touchdown. But the next play is going to be really what encompasses the whole game as a whole. Watch how open Ramel Keaton gets. No one there. You can land a plane in the distance between him and the closest defender. It was nowhere near contested. And we're going to show it again. And you know what? I think to prove how open he was, we're going to count and we're going to see where the closest defender was. Here we go. Catches the ball right now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 people 15 yards away. Nowhere near him. It's like they just forgot he existed. He's able to walk in. He still has 10 yards of space when he's walking in the end zone. So, back to the Oprah show. Joe Milton, you want a touchdown? Go ahead. 6-yard rush, 6 points on the board. No problem. Tennessee's defense was on fire. 3 touchdowns, this forced fumble, and if we were to show all of them, it would kind of be like just watching the same thing over again. 3 touchdowns, all in that same corner of the end zone, but this is why we came. Nico wants to run it, changes his mind, throws it, Castles gets it, walks it into the end zone. Nico gets his first touchdown as a Tennessee Vol, and watch this, if you're a Tennessee fan, you're gonna love it. Nico, everybody in orange is coming to celebrate with him. The future of the program, he seems to be having a lot of fun. So, no surprise there. Like I said, they bust the doors off UConn, kind of expected. Zach, what did you like? What's one thing you kind of took away from that game?
Well, it's kind of like what you just said. Nico. Finally got
I know you wanted to see him.
I wanted to see Nico so bad, and we finally got to. But not only Nico, we got to see a lot of young rising stars. The future is looking very, very bright for the Volunteers.
Luke?
Yeah, I mean, to me, you mentioned the offense, but we can't pass over the defense. Like you said, 3 touchdowns. The offense didn't come on the field until probably like halfway through the third quarter, in the second half at least.
Yep.
And, I mean, I think that they just shined. I mean, you can see it with the 3 touchdowns, and, you know, they had more touchdowns than Joe Milton did.
Yeah.
So that's a pretty good defensive showing for the Vols.
Absolutely. Sophie, what you
Yeah,
got?
back on that offense, Joe is starting to look like a really solid player, and I'm feeling really confident seeing him go into the Georgia game. He threw for 254 yards, and I'm honestly just so happy that the wide receivers did not drop it. He's looking great, and I'm really happy with that.
Now, not pictured in that was a Squirrel White 82-yard touchdown, and much more, like I said, the defense had 2 additional, but it would have been like deja vu watching the same thing. But we've had our fun. Time to get serious again. We got Mizzou coming up in Mizzou. New Year's 6 implications. I mean, if they win, if Ole Miss beats Georgia, then we've got a chance to the SEC final there. If we beat Georgia, which is going to happen. Let's keep going. What do you guys want to see, or what do you expect to see? What are you hopeful to see in that Mizzou game?
So one thing that I really think needs to happen is the rushing game. Tennessee, in every win that they've had, has been able to run the ball effectively. That's how we've ran our offense. We have rushed for 227.8 yards per game, and allowing opponents to only rush for 90.8 yards per game. I think the rushing game is going to be a big factor, but also on the defensive side of the ball.
Absolutely. Luke?
I mean, I think for me, you got to look at the Missouri offense. You know, the Brady Cook and Luther Burden combo, as Colton talked about a couple weeks ago.
That was our Halloween fright. So
Yep.
I remember that.
They're a scary duo, and I mean, you can't buzz past that. I mean, so I think the corners, you know, Judah Lawley and Jaden McCullough, and I think they're going to have to step up, especially Nico Slaughter as well. And I think they're going to have to, lock up Luther Burden because he's a freak if he gets in the open field.
Absolutely. Sophie?
On the offensive side, they have got to have a really consistent running game because that is our strength right now. Joe's got to be accurate, got to be consistent. But as far as our defense goes, they have got to pressure Missouri's quarterback, Brady Cook, because once you give him time in the pocket, just think about and be accurate, he's going to become a real weapon there. Missouri also has a pretty good running defense, so we just got to be aware of that coming into the game. And it's going to come down to whichever team makes the fewest mistakes, which means us not screwing up in the red zone and not making bad fourth down calls coaching. So.
I mean, also on the offensive side, just to add one more thing, I mean, we saw it against UConn. We wanted the offense to open up, and I feel like they did a good job of opening up. So, I mean, if we see that, you mentioned the running game, which, needs to be strong, but, I mean, let's just keep the passing game going, too. If we opened up the offense against UConn and scored a bunch of points. So
I told you, Joe.
if throwing equals points, then, let's throw the ball against Missouri. So.
I love it. Well, let's take a look at what kind of we think is going to happen. We'll go through our picks. I'm going to start with Colton's. Colton is our devil's advocate. He's got Mizzou beating Tennessee by 31-30. Like I said, I think it's going to be really a hard game. The Vols have not really been successful on the road aside from Kentucky. I think that's why he's got Mizzou. Zach, what's your pick?
So to quote a few ESPN analysts, they were saying that Tennessee needs to rush for about 200 to win this game, which I think is perfectly reasonable. We've faced tough run defenses before within Alabama and A&M, two of the best in the SEC. Now we're the best in the SEC. So not only do I think they'll rush for 200, but I think they'll win in a big way. Give me Tennessee 42-20.
There we go.
Wow,
Sophie?
pretty confident in the Vols.
Yeah, this is going to be a pretty defining game for either team, regardless of who wins. They're both 7-2 overall, 3-2 in SEC play, but I think the Vols are just overall a better team. I mean, Missouri's got some weapons like their quarterback, but if we can just keep that momentum off of the 2 wins we've just had, keep Joe's options open, make sure he's consistent, not make some wild calls coaching. I think UT's going to win this one. Give me Tennessee 31-24.
All righty, Luke.
Right along that same pick, too. I
There we
think
go.
it's going to be a close game. I'm not quite sure about the 42-20. I don't know if it's going to be that wide open, but I think they'll keep it close. Both teams, have the ability to score and have some good defenses. So I got them Vols winning 30-24.
All righty, well, that is all the time that we have. That game will be at 3:30 on Saturday. As for us, all we got. But in the second half of Orange Zone, we're going to take a look at the Vols and Lady Vols' huge basketball games coming up. In the meantime, we're going to send it over to this week's Pick 6 with Jordan and Alexi. See you soon.
Hey everyone, welcome back to another segment of Pick 6. I'm Jordan Smitherman.
And I'm Alexi Cowan.
We asked the Torch Sports Instagram followers to predict the winners of the top 6 NFL and college football matchups of the week.
We will also give you our opinions on each game.
First up, we have number 10 Ole Miss traveling to number 2 Georgia this weekend. I'm going to have to go with the Dogs on this one. Ole Miss will give it a chance, but I don't think it will be enough. Although they have won 5 straight and are in our top 10 team, I think they'll get beat in the trenches. It will be hard to compete with Georgia at Sanford Stadium at night, where they have won 26 straight. What do you have, Alexi?
Well, I think Georgia will benefit from their home field advantage in this one. Although Ole Miss is a very talented team, I don't think they can handle such a strong, undefeated team on Bulldog turf.
Yep, I agree. Next, we have our Tennessee Vols against the 7-2 Missouri Tigers. I'm going with the Vols in a close one. I feel like we could either show up and show out in this game or lay an egg. But Joe Milton has been playing some of his cleanest football right now. The entire offense is starting to click, and we already have 1 road win under our belt with Kentucky. So I think we're going to continue the momentum. Alexi, what are your thoughts?
Well, I think this is going to be a dogfight right to the end. But after seeing Mizzou's performance at Georgia, I don't think we will be able to hold them from the end zone. Unfortunately, give me Missouri by an inch. And last for college, we've got number 3 Michigan traveling to number 10 Penn State. Who you got, Jordan?
I'm going to have to go with Michigan on this one. Even though they are going through the whole sign-stealing scandal, they have been steamrolling every opponent they faced, and I think this game will prove that they are a true contender for the national title. The combo of J.J. McCarthy and Blake Corum is lethal, and Drew Aller of Penn State hasn't shown me enough to prove that he can will his team to victory against a top opponent.
I agree. Penn State does look good, but they haven't had many true competitors. They've only played 1 top 20 opponent so far, Ohio State, and they couldn't handle that high caliber team. So I think Michigan will go much the same.
Yes. Now let's throw it over to NFL. We are officially halfway through the season, and there's another week of great matchups, one being the Cleveland Browns and Baltimore Ravens. This game is always guaranteed to be good. Alexi, who are you going with?
I think the Ravens will take a win here. At the beginning of October, the Ravens were able to take an easy lead while missing 2 receivers and their starting left tackle. I think their offense will take this game.
Nice. This one was a tough one for me to decide, but give me the Ravens. They've been playing classic, consistent Ravens football recently, and when they're at their best, they're hard to stop. Yes, the Browns defense is dominant, but they couldn't stop Lamar and co. last game, and I don't think they'll be able to stop him this time either. Also, the quarterback inconsistencies don't help their chance of winning, and it's hard to win consistently without a good quarterback.
That's true. Next up, the 49ers travel to Jacksonville to face the Jaguars. 49ers have lost their last 3 games. Can they turn things around?
I think they can. The Jaguars have been red hot, and they're on a 5-game winning streak, but I think this is where the 49ers will turn it around. I think Brock Purdy will correct his turnover troubles, and he might have his full arsenal of weapons back with Deebo Samuel returning to practice this week. And don't forget, they have a scary new addition to their D-line with both Nick Bosa and Chase Young attacking the quarterback. Alexi, what you got?
The Jaguars are looking pretty unstoppable lately, so I don't know if San Francisco can quiet them down, especially being on the road. Give me Jags. And finally, we have the Lions and Chargers in LA. What do we think?
I'll go Lions for this one. They're sitting at 6-2 coming off a bye week, and I think Dan Campbell will have his team ready to compete. The Chargers are too inconsistent for me, and I don't trust them to win against a hot and well-rested Lions squad. What about you, Lexi?
I want to see the Lions win this one. They have a good record on the road, and their defense has been really showing up lately. I'm really excited about this matchup.
That's all we have for this week's Pick 6. We hope you all enjoyed, and now we're going to hand it off to Luke with the Rocky Talk crew.
Hey everyone, welcome back to another segment of Rocky Talk. I'm Luke Lamery with Matt Solitsky. Let's dive into it. First of all, I know you were following the World Series hard. Tell me about the Rangers. Tell me about the offseason coming up. What do you got? What are you feeling?
There's a lot to unpack. Just an excellent postseason. I mean, arguably the best since 2015 when we saw 2 wildcard teams in the Royals and the Mets. Royals won that one. In this case, we see the Rangers, a wildcard team, beating Tampa Bay Rays, which is very unexpected, and against the Arizona Diamondbacks, another team that really held their own and was a big surprise in the postseason. So awesome postseason. 2 teams that had extremely difficult chances and a really hard path to get there in the first place. And the Rangers, man, their offense is super dominant along with their starting pitching. The relief pitching came in as a big issue, and they just prevailed, man. I mean, they just were an excellent, dominant team, especially without their MVP in Aroldis Garcia. So a really good postseason. Congratulations to the Rangers who won their first World Series. Speaking about the offseason, there's a lot of things to go over. You got a lot of free agents and a lot of good stuff. The 2 biggest names, obviously Shohei Ohtani, arguably the best player in baseball. Here's what's interesting. He's not playing next season. He's out with the injury.
Yeah.
Right. So who he signs with, the amount of money he signs for, it's all in question. Arguably the biggest signing this free agency, along with Japan's Yamamoto, who pitched in the World Baseball Classic, one of the best young pitchers out there. Where he goes should be very interesting. My guess is between the Red Sox and the Mets. Again, all comes down to who's going to offer the most money.
Great points. I mean, you hit it right on the tail there. Let's talk NFL for just a little bit here. I mean, we got to talk Josh Dobbs. I mean, he showed up in Minnesota probably 3 days before the game. I'm not sure exactly. And he just absolutely dominated. And so I'll tell you this. I mean, he didn't know his playbook. He didn't know his players. Matt, what does the rest of the season look like for them?
Well, it's great to see him land another gig, right? But unfortunately, players like that don't typically stick, right? Because you have these guys that travel from team to team and are learning new playbooks and are learning new teammates. And for a player like him, he's traveled with so many different teams because the reality is he's not an excellent quarterback. He is a mid-level quarterback. He would probably be arguably the best backup quarterback on any NFL team, right? So there's a role for him in the NFL. Look.
But you got to look here. I mean, you got to look. He's transformed the entire energy of the offense.
Sure.
Did you see how happy they were?
I mean, take a look at the Cardinals, right? In the first day, he did the same thing over there.
You're exactly right.
But it just stinks because as Tennessee people, you'd love to see a guy like that land on his feet, right? And unfortunately, that's just not how the business part of the NFL goes. But with that being said, he's got an opportunity. It's right in front of him. He's going to be starting next week. What he does with it is up to him. He's got to be able to perform at a high level, proving that he can at least withstand the rest of the season and hopefully get a deal after that, something long term.
I mean, I agree with you. I got to agree with you. It's just, it's something where you like you said, you want to see him succeed, but it's also a business aspect. Other big NFL news: Tennessee Titans, Will Levis. I mean, just completely benched Ryan Tannehill.
Right.
I'm asking you this: is Will Levis going to turn this franchise around?
Well, they drafted him for a reason, and he's playing with a chip on his shoulder, right? Falling so far in the draft, you wonder what his mental state was at the beginning of the season, and now at this point, now that he's been given the starting opportunity, it's too early to start saying who's better, Tannehill or Levis, obviously. But now that Levis is named the quarterback, it really shows that, for one, they have a lot of trust in what could be their franchise quarterback, and two, he is a dominant quarterback. He is excellent on the field, both in the run game and in the pass game. And when he gets into it, when he gets momentum, he's very similar to Joe Milton in that sense. When he gets momentum, he's as good as anybody. So it'll be very interesting to see Titan Nation finally get some joy and see if that will continue. But at the end of the day, it all comes down to how momentum serves him.
I got you. Absolutely. How do we feel, big game, Germany, how do we feel about the Chiefs beating the Dolphins? Briefly, kind of break it down for me.
Well, you talk about arguably the best highlighted game over the last 2 or 3 weeks, primarily because you have a really healthy Dolphins team who's been criticized all year for not only being down in the dumps because they've only played bad teams and all their wins have come against bad teams, but two, a really good Chiefs team who lost the week before, right? So you go to Germany and you have these two teams play, and the Dolphins showed why, despite being completely healthy, they just cannot beat good teams. I think the word fraud might be a little too far, but it's something close to that, right? I mean, they just can't seem to win. They were as healthy as could be. They have arguably one of the best defenses now with both Ramsey and Howard in the backfield. I don't know what else to do. As a Dolphins fan, and Tua can't play in the final 2 minutes. I don't know what his deal is.
Okay, all right. I mean, we can take a look at that, but we also have to take a look at the 70-20 victory. I mean, you say they can't beat good teams, but they can sure as hell beat bad ones.
Well, they have a dominant offense, but you can't, harp on an offensive team that played the worst team in the NFL, being, of course, the Broncos, right? So there's a lot of different factors. At the end of the day, the Dolphins are good. Are the Dolphins contending? If they are, they're at the bottom of the list. The Chiefs are contending, obviously. They have the MVP quarterback, but with that being said, right now, the Dolphins have to figure out what this team looks like when they're completely healthy and how to turn that into wins.
You're right. I want to switch it to NBA just briefly. We've got, let me talk the trade. James Harden to the Clippers. What are your thoughts about that?
Well, for the Clippers, it's a really good pickup, right? It seems like a player that fits in well with a Paul George and a Kawhi Leonard, two very good defensive players, two very good two-way players. They add offense to a team that wasn't lacking offense, but could use some more. It was definitely their weakness as opposed to their strength, the strength being their defense. So they do give up a lot of depth. With that being said, they add P.J. Tucker, another defensive piece who is excellent in guard 1 through 5. So a really good, dominant team in the West, who I said was contending before. I think it's going to take them some time to figure it out, figure out the chemistry, figure out the camaraderie and how they play with one another. But a very good, solid team to compete with almost anybody in the Western Conference.
You got it. Again, NBA, we've got the NBA in-season tournament happening right now. I want to hear some of your picks. I want to hear your picks from each group and then 2 wild card picks. What do you got?
It's interesting how they do it, right? They have the pools. They have 3 pools in each conference, 5 teams. It's all based on a draw of last season's record. So I'll break it down. We got West Group A, right? And I have here Grizzlies, Suns, Lakers, Jazz, Blazers. Blazers are out. Jazz are out. And it really comes down to the Grizzlies, Suns, and Lakers. The Grizzlies are in there, well, because they're really well coached, despite what some people think. And at the end of the day, they do have decent pieces, role player pieces. But the Lakers have arguably the best defense in the Western Conference. And the Suns are not there yet chemistry-wise. They are missing a lot of chemistry. So you got to take the Lakers in West Group A. West Group B, Nuggets, Clippers, Pelicans, Mavericks, Rockets. Mavericks are off to a great start this season.
Oh, absolutely.
Despite what people thought, the adding of Grant Williams, the duo of both Irving and Doncic is just a great pair. So now you have momentum going into the in-season tournament. Give me the Mavericks in West Group B. West Group C. The obvious choice is the Warriors. Warriors, Kings, Timberwolves, Thunder, Spurs. The Warriors are arguably the best team in basketball right now, primarily because this is the same team we saw 2 years ago when they won the championship and the team that was a dynasty 5, 6, 7 years ago, right? So the Warriors, and I'm going to go with my wild card, also coming out of West Group C, The Minnesota Timberwolves, been a big surprise this year. Anthony Edwards, he's just been excellent all year long. He's coming off the USA FIBA World Cup, right? He's got a lot of momentum under his belt. He gets a lot of slack for what Towns does, what Gobert does, but he's just been dominant this year. So with momentum, it's just a big factor, especially in basketball. Give me the Timberwolves. Moving on to the Eastern Conference, East Group A, Sixers, Cavaliers, Hawks, Pacers, Pistons. I didn't mention this before. The trade with the Clippers was won by the Sixers, and I don't even think it's close. I really don't. I think the Sixers are the best team in the Eastern Conference. And I think a lot of people have the Spurs, the Bucks, the Celtics, and at the end of the day, the Bucks have a terrible defensive team, at least to the start of the season, and the Celtics will never win as long as Mazzulla's their coach and they have no depth. Hauser's your seventh best player.
That's not a bad take.
Not a winning team.
Yeah,
right.
You got it.
So the Sixers win in Group A with the Cavaliers, Hawks, Pacers, Pistons. That's an easy win. East Group B, Bucks, Knicks, Heat, Wizards, Hornets. Bucks, just because they have the MVP and they have the defensive capability, we'll see what they do. Again, to be determined with the Bucks. East Group C, Celtics, Nets, Raptors, Bulls, and Magic. Magic, man, a really young and talented team. And well-coached, an underrated coach. Momentum, like I said, this is a team that's done great all year as a young team and has really surpassed expectations in the Eastern Conference. So I take the Magic in Group C over the Celtics, who, again, I think will never win on any level as long as they continue to have Mazzulla at the forefront. And my wild card pick, they're the most wild card team in the NBA, right? The Miami Heat. Nobody's more wild card
I knew you were going to say that.
than South Beach, right? That's not to say that they're going to win, but if there's any team that just has to squeak in and has a chance of competing, regardless of who's healthy, it's the Miami Heat. Right, they got their new jerseys, the Heat culture jerseys. That's what it's all about. Miami, as long as they're a wild card, they're going to contend with anybody.
That wraps up this week's episode of Rocky Talk. We're going to send you back over to Orange Zone. Thank you for tuning in, and go Vols.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Orange Zone. That's Zach, Colton, and Luke. I'm Jackson Schock. Thank you so much for joining us. Thursday night, the Lady Vols played their first Power 5 opponent, the 18th-ranked Florida State Seminoles. There is one issue, though. They played on Thursday. We're filming this on Thursday. It goes out Friday. We're going to need to do some time traveling. But don't worry, haven't looked at the score, so we're just going to give our best bets as to what we think is going to happen. Luke, let's start with you. What you got?
I mean, I'm looking at this game, and I'm taking a look at the Florida State team in this game, and I'm watching out for Michaela Timpson. I mean, to me, she's their best player. She, almost averaged a double-double last year. 13.2 points, 8.8 rebounds per game. And, it's clear to see that she's picked that right back up this season as well, starting out with 18 points in her first showing and 8 rebounds. I think, the Lady Vols hopefully locked her down in the game, and I think that's going to be the key for the Vols.
Absolutely. Zach?
So we saw 3 Lady Vols scoring in the double digits, but that was about it in their win over Florida A&M. I want to say it was a decent win. We won 93-60, so it was a decent win. But for what is
Decent win.
decent win.
30 ball to team.
But who's Florida A&M? We should have at least doubled them, right? I feel like we are good enough, and going into Florida State, we're really going to have to hone that in. Colton, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think the big story here is Tanaya Latson for Florida State. She was one of the best players in the country last year. National Freshman of the Year, first team All-ACC, and she's out for this game. She averaged 22 points last year, 7 games with 30 points or more. And like I said, she's not going to play. That's big in this game. I think that's the reason why we win this game is just flat out she's not playing. I think if she was playing, this game is in Florida State. I might pick Florida State to win this game.
Wow.
I wasn't too impressed by the women's team in their first game against Florida A&M at all. I would like to see Rakia get involved a little bit more. I mean, I think she had 13 points and, like I said, double digits, but she averaged 19 last year, so I'd like to see her get a little bit more involved. I'd like to see Tamari Key get more involved too. She's obviously coming back from that, her blood clots that she had, and hopefully everything's good with her, and we're obviously going to wait until she's completely healthy for her to get in there, but she's going to be huge in these games going forward against these big ranked teams. We don't have a player like her that can play there in the post. She's a block machine. And so she's got to show up. She can play too. But I think Tennessee wins this game, but it's really close.
So you mentioned Tennessee. They got the men's team going up to Madison, Wisconsin to face on the unranked, but could be ranked Madison, Wisconsin Badgers. Luke, what are you expecting? What do you expect to see from this game?
Yeah, I mean, I said it last week that, I'm hoping to see Jonas Adu have a good season this year. And I think, the first game, 8 rebounds, 4 blocks, he did it defensively, but it just wasn't there offensively. And I think, you have scorers on this team like Dalton Knecht and Zakai Ziegler and all those guys, but I think Jonas Adu, when he's in the paint as much as he is, he's got to convert more than he did in the last game. Only 4 points, And I mean, if you just watch him play, there were a couple. Not that I'm going to say it's easy to score in the paint, because my 5'8" self probably couldn't do it. But I mean, for him, he's got to convert on more chances, that he gets, because he's down there all the time, and he's just got to start scoring a little bit more.
Absolutely. Zach? So going up against Wisconsin, they are a good, gritty team. They should be ranked, like you were saying.
Yep.
Those Midwesterns, they know how to play some basketball.
Yeah, they do.
Now, we saw a lot, like you said, Colton, of Dalton Connect last game. That was a good performance by him. One of the best pickups I think we've had in a good minute, and I think it's going to really propel Tennessee basketball forward. But in this game, I want to see Zakai Ziegler and Vescovi. We didn't see them in the first game. We saw 3 points and 2 points from them, so, is what it is. But I think if we see him a lot more, I think throughout the season, play pretty good ball.
Zakai coming off that knee injury, but he's kind of slowly getting re-involved. That happened late last season. Colton, who you got? What do you expect? What do you think is going to happen here?
Yeah, I agree with you, Zach. I think they should be ranked as well. I mean, 4 returning starters from last year, plus a big transfer, AJ Storr from St. John's, scored 15 points in their first game this week. But their Big Ten all-freshman team member, Connor Essagian, got hurt in the first game. We're not sure if he's going to play. He was their 6th man last year, but he averaged 11 points as a freshman. He's a breakout candidate for this year. It's still uncertain whether or not he's going to play, but if he does not play, that bodes well for Tennessee in this game for sure. But I agree with you too, Luke. I think Jonas Aidoo is huge in this game. Wisconsin has 2 huge forwards, Stephen Crowell and Tyler Wall. They're both been there for a long time. I think one of them's a junior, one of them's a senior, so a lot of experience there. Both are really tall, really big. Aidoo is by far the tallest guy. He's the 5. He's going to play the center pretty much the entire year. He's got to show up in this game, try and limit them, but ultimately I think our defense is good enough to stop them. I like Chucky Hepburn for Wisconsin too. He had 20 points in their opening game, but I do think our defense is going to be able to stop them. Like you said, Dalton Connect as well. I think he's going to be really good all year long. I expect him to have a big week, just like pretty much every week going forward.
Yep.
But I would give Tennessee the win here, but I think the spread is just about right. 4 or 5 point win. It's in Madison as well. But I would give Tennessee the win here in a close one.
Well, you mentioned the spread. It's time to put your imaginary money where your mouth is. I've got the spread, I've got the over-under, and we're going to guess the leading scorer. Let's start with the spread. It's set at 4.5. Tennessee in Tennessee's favor. Do you guys take are you taking Tennessee, or are you going to take Wisconsin plus 4.5? Zach, let's start with you.
I'm definitely going to take Tennessee minus 4. I think that they're going to have it. I think being ranked, number 9 in the country doesn't get you that's your label. You are number 9. You are a good basketball team. I think against this Wisconsin team, I think they show up, they show out, especially with those returning players getting more minutes. Like you said, Aidoo and Ziegler and Vescovi, I think we see them a lot more. Give me Tennessee.
Yep. Luke?
I'm on the same page with him. I think I'm taking Tennessee minus 4.5. I mean, I think it'll be close, but I think the Vols are going to edge it out. And like you said, we just have too many good scorers on this team to not, put up more points than them.
Golden, back
plain
to
and
you.
simple.
I'd lead towards Tennessee too. Like I said, I think it's going to be close. I expect maybe somewhere between 5 and 10 point victory for Tennessee. But yeah, I'd give them the spread. But like I said, I could easily see Wisconsin covering the spread.
Now let's go to over and under. We got 103 set as the over under. Colton, are you going over or under that from the scoring standpoint?
I'm going under. I mean, Tennessee under is a lock in the past. I mean, our defense is so good. Our offense can struggle at times. So I'm going to go for the under for that one for sure.
Absolutely, Luke.
I'm going to go a different route. I'm going to take the over on this one. Both of these teams can prove they can score. I mean, Wisconsin last week, granted it was against Arkansas State, but 105 points. Even against a poor team, 105 points is pretty impressive. And I think, that the offenses of both these teams are going to outpower the defenses, and I think it's going to be a higher scoring game.
Zach?
I agree with you. I think it's going to be a higher scoring game. I'm thinking probably the 60s to the 70s range. So I'm taking probably about 150 total points. But again, Tennessee.
Absolutely. Okay, now let's go to our leading scorer. Who you guys think? It can be from either team. I'm assuming if you guys have Tennessee winning, it could be a Tennessee player. Who do you guys have as your leading scorer? Let's start with you, Luke.
I'm riding the Connect train all the way. I think, he's, like you said, he's such a great pickup for the Vols this year. And I mean, I think he's just going to have an outstanding season. I think he's going to, end the season as the leading scorer for the Vols, and I think that's going to be no different in this game.
Absolutely, Zach.
For this game, I want to see Ziegler.
There you go. Comeback game.
I want to see him come back, and I want to see him show out. I want to see more than 20 points from him.
Absolutely, Colton.
Yeah, I like Connect too, but if I was going to go, for an outside shout, I like Jordan Gainey a lot as well.
There we go.
I mean, if Ziegler, if he's limited again, Gainey was playing a lot of point guard, especially at Michigan State. He played a lot at the point. He's going to have the ball in his hands a lot. He has the potential to get hot from 3. We also saw that against Michigan State. So I think Gainey could definitely be the leading scorer in this game. If Wisconsin does end up with the win, I mentioned Stephen Crowell and Tyler Wall. I like one of those guys to be the leading scorer. If they can play through the paint, I think that's how they're going to win. Like you said, Aidoo not been too good in the first game. But yeah, I think if Wisconsin wins, Tyler Wall and Stephen Crowell, one of them's going to be leading scorer. But I like Dalton Connect or Jordan Gainey for Tennessee.
There we go. We found our guy. Tennessee obviously not thriving offensively. They're more of a defensive team historically, but I think it's time to turn that. But that's all the time we have for week 8 of the Orange Zone. For Zach, Luke, and Colton, I'm Jackson Schock. Thank you so much for watching, and we're going to see you right back here next week. Peace!
I mean, what even is their city jersey anyway? It's just a bunch of lines. It doesn't make any sense. It's stupid. Hi, everyone. I'm Jay King, and welcome back to the Sportscast. And sadly, today I'm going to talk about my favorite NBA team, the Memphis Grizzlies. And like my last 2 times on here, they were trending downward, or they are trending downward very, very fast. Our main focus going into this season was to not poop the bed when Ja Morant was going on his extra long vacation. And guess what we're doing right now? We are pooping the bed while Ja Morant is on his extra long vacation. 1-7 on the season, most recently losing to a mid-Miami Heat squad without Damian Lillard that is battling a championship hangover. We were supposed to just coast by with a 500 record or so and fight for a good seed when Ja gets back, but no. We have to get absolutely destroyed with injuries. We are so injured that we only had 10 players in our loss to the Heat. We have Brandon Clark out for our backup big out for an extended time with a torn Achilles. Steven Adams, our starting center, out for this season with knee surgery. Derrick Rose out week to week with knee soreness, while Jake LaRavia, Gigi Jackson, Vincent Williams Jr., Xavier Tillman, and John Conchar are all day-to-day. And don't forget about Ja Morant being on, well, his extra long vacation. But even with all these injuries, there's still no excuse being 1-7 and having the worst record in the NBA. I know we had to play the Nuggets Mavericks, but we also lost to the Pelicans, Trailblazers, Jazz, the Wizards, and most recently, we helped the Miami Heat get back to 500 last night. You're welcome, Matt. Our only win this season was versus the Trailblazers in our second matchup this season, but the game that we lost to them earlier in the season was the in-season tournament, so they won the more important game anyway. We are legitimately playing like one of the worst teams in the league, and it sucks too because a year ago I had so much confidence in this team and I thought we really could win a championship in the next 5 years. But now it seems like we just can't put it together, whether that is Dylan Brooks running his mouth at the GOAT last year and then sucking versus the Lakers, but then somehow playing well this year on the Rockets, or injury problems with any big man on the roster, or Ja Morant and his love for going on vacations. And now if you ask me if we were winning a championship team now, if you ask me if we were a championship team now, I would laugh right in your face. I think at this point it's time for Taylor Jenkins to go, and hopefully Ja Morant won't go on any more vacations. We need to make changes to this team because we are turning into a disaster. I swear being a fan of this team is like public humiliation. Anytime I say I'm a Grizzlies fan to anyone, they either laugh at me or feel bad for me, and I completely understand why. Too bad we didn't suck this much last year when we had Wemby to tank for. I'm Jay King, this was Sportscast, and never be a Tennessee sports fan. It will destroy your mental health.
Hey guys, it's Brendan. Thanks for watching this episode of Torch Sports. We'll be back next Friday for more of your favorite sports coverage and wild takes. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram and TikTok at Torch Sports UTK, and don't forget to subscribe to the volunteer channel on YouTube. We hope you have a great weekend. If you're traveling to Missouri for the game, please be safe, and we'll see you next time. Go Vols!